Yeah. Reenactment is part of the looping process. In other words, the anatomy of trauma. If somebody has trauma, it means that life experiences of a negative nature have a repeating quality to them. And it's like a bad dream that never resolves, you know. It's common for clients to come in and say they have repetitive nightmares that never go away, the same damn nightmare over and over and over again. And that's an example of what we're talking about here, is an inability to see past their own stuckness. So reenactment is kind of uh, a situation where we see the the downside to our lives. In other words, somebody may come into a room. We can have a room of 1,000 people. You know, you say you're going to a singles event, and there's 1,000 people in the room, rooftop, drinks, all that thing, and everybody's hyped up and excited about the possibilities. Well, so you're going to go find the wrong person in that group of 1,000 people, you know, because you're so programmed to want to finish a bad situation with a parent. And it's subconscious. You don't even recognize that your antenna are attracting you across that crowded room to exactly the wrong person, because that wrong person has all the things that the relationship with a bad parent was. And it's like, oh, they're dressed pretty nice and they have a good career and they like me, you know? And that's good enough for me, even though my subjective sense of them is that they're dangerous. I'm even more drawn to them. Go figure, you know? Um, so um, that's reenactment. That's reenactment. And I think 80, 90% of relationships that take hold as a committed, bonded relationship have this reenactment piece there. Um, some people can get past it, a lot can't, because what looked like an opportunity for salvation and for changing things only becomes a reenactment or a redoing of the same dynamic again. And you'll see that in your work as well, that when somebody is reenacting in a process, like I've watched groups try to clear up trauma. And if somebody is spasming in tears, for instance, you know, the process has gotten the person to unearth their sadness and it's coming out. And it's now, you know, 18 minutes into this process, and there's still this surging of negative emotion. After that much time of the same thing, they're not healing. They're reenacting trauma. And we have to be able to discern when somebody is so traumatized that they're prone towards reenactment. And I think the best measure is this endless, unrelenting sadness and tears and crying and all this stuff, and physical gestures that kind of reflect a primitive experience. And nothing changes over 10, 15-minute period. In that process, you've got reenactment going on. And you as the practitioner have to step in there and help the client understand that they're prone towards reenactment versus integration. If it was integration, you would see a pendulation or an oscillation from negative to positive and back again, back and forth and back and forth. Even if it's subtle and minimal, there'd still be some up and down, back and forth. In reenactment, it just stays at a high level of distress and it never comes off that level. Then you know you have reenactment. And some therapists think that they're hitting pay dirt here. Some therapists think, wahoo, this is a $200 session. I've earned my money because they cried through the whole thing. No, that's not true. It pains me to think that a lot of therapists think that they're wonderlinks, when it comes to being therapists, because they can put somebody in reenactment and think that they're purging. And, when I'm training people and I'm watching other forms of therapy, I'm very, very plugged into when the therapeutic process is only creating reenactment. And both parties, the therapist and the client, think that they're doing wonderful things, but yet the treatment goals never get realized because of reenactment instead of integration. So part of what we do in this process with existential anguish is really try to give the therapist as many indicators as we can to differentiate what is processing, meaning integration, and what is just reenactment and re-traumatization. What is the difference? And that's a subtlety, it's not straightforward. It's another thing in the measures that can take you down a lot of different paths, have witnessed this, and I'm sitting there watching, 6, 8, 10 groups all doing the same reenactment thing. And they all think that they're, finding nirvana and righteousness and compassion. And it's just the opposite. It's damaging. It's kind of re-traumatization. And even the client comes out of the experience trying to find good things to say about it because everybody's so jazzed that it's happened this way. And you talk about reenactment of trauma. This is the same dynamic that happens in the family, that happens in the parent-child relationship, where the child has to accept whatever the parent wants them to feel about the situation, even if they were being beaten up, and the parent thinks it was for their own development and character development, and the child goes along with it and maybe starts hitting themselves or whatever. You see it in little children who try to learn limits, and you can be right on the cusp of trauma with these little children around 2 years old when you're trying to teach them limits, and you'll see the child start to try to take it on, and you'll hear the little child go to themselves, no, 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 like that. And, sometimes it's better to be soft and gentle with the child and abandon any effort at limit setting because it's being taught in a very underhanded, mean spirited, power hungry kind of way. You want children, or you want anybody to understand where you're on their side and when you're not. You don't want to confuse them about that. It's a line of thinking that I've developed a lot of depth about, and it's really kind of cathartic to be asked these questions and to say, oh, here's another angle that you can understand existential anguish. but don't believe that these measures are the end all be all of it. You're going to be in a discovery process, just like I was, to come up with these. And if you're really on the money as an attachment therapist, you're going to add to this list. You know, you're going to put new things on that list comparable to what I'm talking about.